Hello my friends, welcome and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited because today we're going to be talking all things fall as far as reading. I'm going to be sharing with you guys my fall TBR, the physical books I have on my shelves that I am dying to read this fall, books that are on my radar to purchase, and new releases that are coming out this fall as well. Fall is just one of my favorite times to read. I feel like the weather gets a lot cozier to just stay inside with a book. And as a girl who does love fantasy, I feel like fall is the best time to read it. I just do. I think it goes so well with the season. I'm also hoping that I dive into some books that are a little bit out of my comfort zone, but are still really fall appropriate. So I'm excited to share those with you guys too. But without further ado, let's get into my ultimate fall TBR. First things first, we're starting with an oldie but a goodie, and that is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I have never read The Hobbit before. I've never read The Lord of the Rings. I absolutely love the movies. I don't know if maybe I'll feel differently after I finally jump into this world, but I feel like The Hobbit to me screams fall. A journey crossing beautiful lands, also with some eerie, spooky vibes to them. I don't really think I need to describe this story to you because unless you've been living under a rock, you know what The Hobbit is. But I've been so excited to specifically read this edition that I found at my local bookstore. It's an illustrated edition, which is so exciting. I feel like I don't read a lot of illustrated books, I guess, as an adult, so it's just made me excited to be able to read it. I have heard that some people say this does read slowly, so I might tandem this between the book and the audio. But yeah, it's just one of those stories that I'm like, can I really call myself a fantasy reader if I haven't read the ultimate fantasy book? The next book that I'm really excited to read on my physical TBR this fall is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is an adult dark academia fantasy. I believe this is her adult debut novel, actually. This is about our main character, Alex, who survives a horrible homicide. But at her hospital bedside, she is offered basically a full ride to Yale University, so she kind of has some questions about that. Why now and why her? Still searching for answers, Alex arrives in New Haven, tasked by her mysterious benefactors with monitoring the activities of Yale's secret societies. Their 8 windowless tombs are the well-known haunts of the rich and powerful, from high-ranking politicos to Wall Street's biggest players, but their occult activities are more sinister and more extraordinary than any paranoid imagination might conceive. They tamper with forbidden magic, they raise the dead, and sometimes they prey on the living. Again, I just feel like dark academia is the perfect genre to read in the fall, especially when it's got some spooky vibes in it. So I feel like Ninth House is going to be great for the fall. I've recently read Six of Crows earlier this year, and I am absolutely obsessed with it still. And so I'm really excited to read more by the same author. Next up, we have a book I've been putting off for far too long, and that is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. First of all, let's start with the cover. You cannot tell me that this does not give you fall vibes, especially with the side, which just is so stunning. This is another dark academia. This is about our main character, Effie, who has been obsessed with this specific story, this epic from this very mysterious author. She ends up having a chance to go to this late author's estate. And while she's there, she ends up seeing one of her academic rivals there as well, who has come to the estate determined to prove that this author is a fraud. But soon they realize that the place that they are at is more than it seems. Highwraith Manor is perched on the very edge of a wrathful ocean, holds dark secrets, the likes of which both Effie and Preston thought only existed in the pages of his stories. The house and the truth might just ruin them both as the sea threatens to swallow them and their stories whole. Part historical fantasy, part rivals to lovers, and part gothic mystery. It's supposed to be very haunting and dreamlike and very atmospheric, and so I feel like it would be perfect to read this fall. The sequel to this book, A Theory in Dreaming, just recently came out, so if I love this book, I'll probably just continue on to that one. Next, we have a witchy YA novel, which is also available on Kindle Unlimited, and that is Wild as a Witch by Rachel Griffin. Rachel Griffin writes very witchy novels. This would be my first by her, but this is supposed to be an enemies to lovers, contemporary fantasy standalone. After a night of magic turns deadly, our female main character basically swears off of ever using magic again. She ends up running a wildlife refuge with her mother, and this ornithologist comes to work with them, who she just cannot stand, named Pike. He ends up making a really hurtful hurtful comment towards her, and she makes a curse that she is just about to cast on him. Things go very, very wrong. Iris and Pike have to end up working together to combat this curse before it ends up affecting not only Pike, but everyone in the region. It's a fairly short book, just over 300 pages, so I feel like it would make a really good palate cleanser. But yeah, anything witchy, I'm really excited to read in the fall. Speaking of witchy, the next book that I have on my physical TBR for this fall is Wayward by Amelia Hart. This story follows 3 different women in 3 different times and settings. Our first female main character's story is in 2019. Under cover of darkness, Kate flees for London for a ramshackle wayward cottage, inherited from a great aunt she barely remembers. With its tumbling ivy and overgrown garden, the cottage is whirled away from the abusive partner who tormented Kate. But she soon suspects that her great aunt had a secret, one that lurks in the bones of the cottage, hidden ever since the witch hunts of the 17th century. In 1619, Altha is awaiting trial for the murder of a local farmer who was stampeded to death by his herd. When Altha was a girl, her mother taught her their magic, a kind not rooted in spellcasting, but in a deep knowledge of the natural world. But unusual women have always been deemed dangerous, and as the evidence of witchcraft is laid out against her, she knows it will take all her powers to maintain her freedom. In 1942, as World War II rages, Violet is trapped in her family's grand, crumbling estate. Straitjacketed by societal convention, she longs for the robust education her brother receives, and for her mother, long deceased, who is rumored to have gone mad before her death. The only traces Violet has of her are a locket bearing the initial W and the word Wayward scratched into the baseboard of her bedroom. Weaving together the stories of 3 extraordinary women across 5 centuries, Wayward is an astonishing debut and an enthralling novel of female resistance. I believe that this is a cross between literary fiction and historical fantasy, which makes me really excited because it's very different from any of the other books that I have on my list. I've heard amazing things about this, and this one is also on Kindle Unlimited, which is always fun to be able to have 2 mediums to be able to read your books with. And also, this cover, are you kidding me? Screams fall. Next is a dark urban fantasy, and that is Terror at the Gates by Scarlett St. Clair. I believe this is kind of like a retelling or a twist on the story of Lilith. I actually don't know much about this book, and I want to go into it blind, so I'm not going to go much further on that. But I did want to read the little blurb on the back. It's almost written like a poem. Beware she who bleeds, bound in chains. Beware the exile, the young winged beast who dances unafraid before the fire. Beware the woman with many names, the maiden, the whore, the scarlet serpent. Beware the temptress who whispers in the dark. She's the beginning and the end. She is peace and chaos. She is terror knocking at the gates. Another cover that is just perfect, especially for spooky season. And I've heard such amazing things about this book that I'm so excited to get into it. Next is a book that has been recommended to me time and time again, and that is The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. I read Spells for Forgetting, and I really felt like Adrienne Young's way of writing was just so beautiful, atmospheric, somewhat haunting, and so I'm really excited to get into another one of her books. In this book, the women in her family have a history of going mad. After her grandmother's death, she begins to see things that really start to make her think that maybe that madness is spreading to her. Specifically, she sees a door, and so she starts to wonder what would happen if she went through that door. This story is about a woman who risks everything to end her family's century-old curse, solve her mother's disappearance, and find love in this mesmerizing novel. Because of the fact that a lot of my friends love this book and we read very similar things, it is an anticipated 5-star read for me, so I'm excited to finally get into this world and just get into an atmospheric fall read. Next is the only science fiction I have on my physical fall TBR, and that is The Blighted Stars by Megan O'Keefe. I'm not really even sure why I feel like this is a fall book, other than the tones of this cover, but I have been really excited to get into it, and I feel like what better time than fall. In this story, humanity is running out of options and viable planets are dying, and our main character, Nara Sharp, believes that this mysterious, powerful family has something to do with it. Now, on the other side of things, we have the male main character who is the heir to this family. His name is Tarquin, and he is very bookish, very quiet, not what you'd think for being the heir to this dynasty, but his father asks him to go and scout out this new planet. And for some reason, his entire family's reputation is hanging on how well this mission goes. However, Nara ends up infiltrating the security surrounding this family. She ends up becoming his bodyguard, going on this expedition with him, and she plans on destroying the ship that they're on before they even make land. However, they end up stranded on this dead planet, and they have to work together to survive. So this book is a reluctant allies to lovers. I haven't heard a ton of people talking about this book, but the people who do absolutely love it, and so that really makes me excited to read it. I'm also pretty new to sci-fi, So I think it'll be really fun to step out of my comfort zone with a read like this. Now on to books that are on my radar to purchase this fall. First is a book that I have heard about on BookTube, but not ever heard about anywhere else, and that is An Exorcism of Fairies by J.L. Vampa. This is a dark academia romance. We are following our female main character, who is the daughter of morticians. She ends up studying botany at Trinity College, which is in Dublin. In Dublin, fae are possessing humans. She ends up working hand to hand with her morbid anatomy professor, because for some reason two of them can exorcise the fae, and while they're working together to do this, obviously they're having some forbidden feelings for each other. This sounds very different from anything that I have on my fall TBR, so it really intrigued me. It's supposed to be for fans of If We Were Villains and Nocticadia, both books that have been on my TBR, but I just haven't gotten to them. But this one right now is just sounding the most intriguing to me, specifically for this fall. So if you've read this book, I would really love to know what you've thought about it. I just feel like it's going to be really fun to read, especially during spooky season. Next on my list to read this fall is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is a mystery thriller series. It's been recommended for fans of the show that I used to love. It's obviously on more of a YA scale, which I can appreciate. This is supposed to be following some really talented young adults who work together to find killers. I have been really excited to get into this series, especially since it's YA. I don't like to read very graphic mystery thrillers.
I do get scared.
So I feel like this would be a really fun one, especially for someone who's pretty new to the genre. I feel like it should be a good segue into other books in this genre. Another book I have really been wanting to add to my shelves is Arcana Academy by Elise Kova. This is a fantasy romance with tarot card magic, which to me really screams fall. It's also got like an engagement of convenience, which is always a trope I enjoy. But we are following our character Clara, who has basically lived her whole life in the underworld. She ends up being sentenced to a lifetime in prison for inking tarot cards, which is a power that's reserved to people who are in the elite Arcana Academy. As she's facing this sentence, she ends up being approached by the headmaster of this academy, who also happens to be a prince. He offers her an escape for a price. He needs somebody to help him to steal a very rare tarot card from the king and use it to recreate an all-powerful tarot card that has been lost to time. Obviously, because she has just received this sentence, in order to disguise her, he enrolls her as a first-year new student in Arcana Academy and introduces her as his bride-to-be. Even though this is an academy setting, it is very high stakes. It seems like any misstep could send her back to prison or worse. She also starts to grow feelings for this prince, which she has sworn to hate. Oh, it just sounds so good. Just all the aspects of a fantasy romance that I like. Specifically with tarot card magic, I'm so excited. I feel like the only other books that I have read with a similar kind of magic with tarot cards or just cards in general was One Dark Window, and I rated that series 5 stars. It just makes me really excited to get into this one. This fall, I am finally going to read Anathema by Carrie Lake. I hear great things about Carrie Lake's writing. I'm not generally a dark romance girl, so that's kind of the reason why I haven't read any of her books. However, this book sounds so good. It is supposed to be a gothic, dark fantasy, more than a dark romance. In this world, there's a forest called Witch Nell. This is the forest where sinners or banished people are sent to die. It's also known as the Eating Woods. Now, our main character is Maveth. She knows all the stories about the Eating Woods and how to never ever go near them. However, a tragic turn of events makes her breach these woods in search of the cursed Lord of Eidolon, and now she is trying to find him because she needs his help to hide her from the mages who are trying to unalive her because of an arcane prophecy. It also turns out that with Maveth's blood, his centuries-long curse could be lifted and the evil that rests in the Eating Woods would be vanquished. It's supposed to be a really good atmospheric story with a slow burn romance and a little touch of horror, which, like I said, I don't generally venture into horror, but I feel like this would be a good segue into the genre, see if it's for me, so I'm very excited to read this book. Another reason why I'm really excited to read it, other than it being on Kindle Unlimited, is there is a really beautiful version of it being released in September with really pretty edges. So, a book that I do not own, but I'm really excited to read this fall. I actually just picked this up early from my library, even though it's technically not fall yet, but by Stacey McEwen. This is supposed to be like Peaky Blinders meets fantasy romance. And the thing about me is I love Peaky Blinders. Tommy Shelby is the ultimate crush for me. And when I think of that show, it's very dark and gothic. Both things are perfect for reading in the fall, so I'm really excited about this one. That is really all I know about this book. It is supposed to be high stakes with lots of secrets and tension. All things that I really, really enjoy in a fantasy romance, especially in the fall. So this is another one I'm really, really excited to read. And last in this category is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I actually own books 2 and 3 in this series. I got really lucky and was able to thrift them in amazing condition, but I am missing the first. I do believe this is on Kindle Unlimited as well. This is by Schwab, and earlier this year I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I fell in love with Schwab's writing. Her writing is so beautiful. This series, along with many of her other ones, have been on my radar. This one, I just feel like I'm gonna get to first just because I have thrifted part of this series. In this series, we are following a smuggler. He is a magician who has the ability to travel between parallel Londons. Officially, he is an ambassador, and unofficially, like I said, he is a smuggler. When one of his exchanges goes awry, he ends up escaping to a different parallel London called Grey London. All of the parallel Londons are called by different colors. She is a thief. She robs him. Then she saves his life and finally forces him to take her to another parallel London for an adventure. The end of the summary says, perilous magic is afoot and treachery lurks at every turn. To save all of the world, they'll need to stay alive. Something about this is screaming fall to me. I feel like it's something about traveling between these parallel Londons, white, and the fact that some of the regimes in these parallel Londons are quite bloody, the fact that it's high stakes, all of that just screams fall to me. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it makes sense to me, so I'm super excited to get into this series. To round off the end of this video, I wanted to talk about a few books that are set to release this fall that are on my radar that I'm very excited to read. The first is Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross, and I am so excited to say that I just got a virtual ARC for this. I'm so excited. I love Rebecca Ross's writing. I fell in love with her writing in Divine Rivals, and then I continued on into the Elements of Cadence series, which is not talked about enough. She's another writer that I just love. The way that she writes just really speaks to me. She writes in such a mystical, lush way that really just takes you into the story. It's very atmospheric. I'm really excited for this release. This is supposed to take place in the world that Divine Rivals did, or like a parallel world to that. In this book, we are following Matilda, and she was born in the domain of the Underrealm, which we see in the second installment in the Divine Rivals. She is born as the youngest goddess of her clan, but she is blessed with messenger magic. Her job is to carry words and letters through the realms. However, she holds a secret that she must keep even from her closest allies in order to be able to survive. Now, to complicate matters worse, there is a boy in the mortal realm who is dreaming of her, even though they've never met. Now, this boy's name is Vincent, and 10 years ago, he wrote a letter to Matilda, who he had befriended in his dreams, begging her to help him. She never responded to this letter, and so he moved on, becoming a very hardened, irreverent Lord of the River who has long since forgotten her. That is until she comes tumbling into his bedroom with a letter for him. So now, as fate would have it, they were destined to find each other. The ending of the summary says, there may be a chance for Matilda to rewrite the blood-soaked ways of the gods, but at an immense sacrifice. She will have to face something she fears even more than losing her magic, to be vulnerable and to allow herself to finally be loved. Oh, that sounds so good. I cannot wait to read it. I'm definitely going to read it in the near future since I have access to the ARC, which I'm so grateful for. Thank you to NetGalley. But yeah, it's just one of my most anticipated new releases for this fall. Speaking of anticipated, I have been hearing so much about Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. Change of outfit because I'm coming to you as I'm editing this video and realizing that I am missing a clip of footage. So we were talking about Catabasis, and Catabasis is by R.F. Kuang. I've never read any books by her. I actually own 2 others by her, but I've heard such amazing things. I just have so many books on my physical TBR. I haven't prioritized those yet. However, I think I'm going to have Catabasis be my first read by her. This is essentially a book where we have 2 students who are traveling through the 7 layers or levels of hell to rescue their professor. That's about all I know about it, but I've been really excited to see reviews of people who've received the advanced reader copies, and they've loved it so far. So super excited about this one. Then after that, there's a book that I'm really excited about ever since I heard Heather McLary talk about it in her fall TBR, and that is Tourist Season by Bryn Weaver, the author of Butcher and Blackbird. I actually have never read that. I've always been intrigued by it, but it's generally just out of my genre. However, a summary for this book sounds so intriguing. It's supposed to be like a dark comedy with some romance in it. Essentially, there is an idyllic little seaside town called Cape Carnage. I think it's based off of like Cape Cod, but this city has a really high body count. People keep dying. And part of that reason is because of a girl named Harper Starling. She loves her home. She's a really skilled gardener, and she just cannot stand when there's tourists that come in that don't respect her town, like don't respect her home. And so she is a reason why some of these tourists disappear, if you're catching my drift, and they end up as essentially food for her flowers. Eventually we have another tourist come in town. He's handsome, he's charming, his name is Nolan Rhodes, and he is actually not here just for the tourist season. Nolan has actually just been in the pursuit of revenge ever since there was a car accident that ruined his life. He has been tracking down a list of people and unaliving them because of it. And the last person on his list is none other than our beautiful gardener, Harper Starling. As he comes into town, he observes her. He was expecting a monster, and Harper is not that. But eventually, as all this is happening, a true crime investigator ends up coming into town, and he is looking for a long-lost serial killer, and the 2 of them, Harper and Nolan, have to work together to essentially throw him off the trail. It sounds so interesting, again, not like anything I've read, so I've been super excited to read this book ever since I heard about it, like last week. And with that, I will hand you back to past me. And my friends, that wraps up my ultimate fall TBR. I'm so excited to read this fall. I am already getting a jump, as you can see, on some of my fall reading, and I just couldn't be more excited. I feel like the fall lover in me is already coming out. I cannot wait for all these books to be in my hands, ready for me to read. Hopefully this video gave you some recommendations for books to add to your fall TBR. Let me know in the comments below if that was the case, or if not, let me know what is on your fall TBR that I haven't mentioned, because I'm always loving to add more books on my radar. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you've stayed till the end, or you want to leave a comment and don't know what to leave, please leave a pumpkin emoji for the season we're approaching. And as always, my friends, I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!